Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from IraSportsDaily.com. I am your host, Greg Flammang, and with me, as always, is Jamie Uyeyama, Mr. Jamie University. First of all, happy Thanksgiving to all who celebrate. It was a great day yesterday that we had. I got to do a mea culpa, hand up. We planned a vacation. We planned a fall break vacation right at a very important time of the season, Jamie. I don't know if you've heard, but Notre Dame's got a playoff berth on the line this weekend against USC out in Los Angeles. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that game, how we're feeling about that game. I spent way too much time out in Arizona hiking, thinking about this game specifically. And so I'm finally able to get all my thoughts out there. It's obviously a little bit later, only one show this week. Again, I apologize for that, but it is what it is. So we move on. I'll be at the game tomorrow covering the game with Matt Freeman. So it's going to be a fun time. And so we're going to talk about all those things. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. If you like what you hear, please hit the like button. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell soon, whatever it is. We are going live. Links to the podcast are in the description below. And Jamie, listeners of Ira Sports Daily's content, whether it be Power Hour, whether it be Hit and Hustle, you know about the ESQ clothing special that is going on right now, 49% off. You have one more day to take advantage of this. I told Ge I would put up the website so people know what it is they're getting here, right? So you've got bamboo shirts, you've got casual shirts, you've got regular dress shirts, you've got formal shirts, neckties, cufflinks, all things of that nature, not eligible for gift cards. So when you check out, use code ISD to get 49% off your purchase, right? So you're going to want to take advantage of that. It is going for today and tomorrow. And then that special is going to be in. It's been going all week long. Talked to Ge yesterday. He said there's some really good traction going online. You're going to want to take advantage of this. You are talking about a bamboo dress shirt for under $100, a casual dress shirt, a dress shirt under $100. You will not get a better deal than this. I promise you. If we're looking for like really nice, high quality dress shirts for work, for outings, galas, you've got holidays coming up. You will not find a better price for clothes of this quality. So you're going to want to head over to esqclothing.com and use ISD code ISD to get 49% off. So take advantage of it. All right, Jamie, how you doing? How are things? How is the week? I listened to you and Mike on Power Hour. I took that in. How are you feeling? How is Thanksgiving hits a little bit different for you as a Canadian. How has the football watching been going for you the last couple of days here?
It's been great. I think one of the things that people know that Canada's Thanksgiving is in October, and so we don't have it. But I still celebrate American Thanksgiving. I just don't eat turkey on that day.
What do you eat?
I just watch football. We ordered Thai food, and it was delicious. It was delicious. But I'll just say that I watched a ton of football. I've been watching football today. Not a ton of great games so far. Not a ton of great games. Interesting Lions Bears game.
Mike's Lions tried to blow it, and Caleb Williams and Matt Eberflus said no, thank you. I'm all set.
And Eberflus lost his job.
Yes, he did.
I also think that Eberflus deserves most of the blame. Caleb, a little bit of blame there too. Like, you're allowed to call timeout as well. So
call timeout. It just seemed like from reading everything, I've been going back and forth. It seemed like Matt Eberflus needed to call a timeout. Caleb Williams changed the play, which obviously took a lot of time. So he called an audible with the clock running down. But then I found out that the play that he changed out of was another quarterback draw. What's with the quarterback draws in this situation? I don't really understand what's going on there. And also, like on the first down play, maybe just hit the crosser for a touchdown. You could also do that.
Yeah.
But look, it wasn't good process, and good process often ends in poor results. So that's exactly what happened. Kudos to Mike's Lions, I guess, for
hey, they'll take it. They're already going to be the 1 seed in the NFC regardless.
Just being, the NFC North is a bear. Speaking of bears, no pun intended, but you've got the what are they, 10-1 Lions, 10-1, 11-1, whatever
11
it might be.
now, I think. Yeah.
You've got the 9-3. You got the 9-3 Packers. Yes, sweetie. I apologize, everybody. My daughter is here. What is it? Yes. Yeah, I'm doing my podcast. Can you go inside? Okay, I'll have mom take care of it. I apologize, everybody. These are the kids are out of school, as you can see.
It's a Thanksgiving thing. You can't plan for these things.
Yeah, you know what? The thing is that the older kids are bothering the younger one, and that's that happens. Adam Dowling says Lincoln Riley to the Bears. Yeah, I mean, let's see, it could happen. It could happen. Listen, I'm on record. This is Lincoln Riley's last season at USC. I don't know how this is going to work out, but I feel like it's something that could take place. So, speaking of Lincoln Riley, Notre Dame's got a big game coming up on Saturday. Jamie, this game has I've tried to avoid thinking about this game for a very long time. I don't like it. I don't like the game in LA to end the season. It always makes me nervous as an LA guy, right? Growing up in LA, I think it hits a little bit different, constantly around USC people, and it just kind of it makes me uncomfortable. And there's so many scars, right? Like I was there in 1994 for the tie. I was there for 1996. I think that 96 game, like if Notre Dame was to drop this one, it would be similar to that. Well, that was just an inexplicable loss, right? And the thing that I think people need to realize about the 96 team is they had scored 60 against Pitt. And then the week after that, they scored 60 against Rutgers. So they were on a hot streak, right? They were crushing those teams. Lou had just announced that he was retiring, he was leaving, he was resigning. And so it was just, and that USC team was bad. And then they just blew it, right? And not just that, but they blew it because they couldn't make an extra point late, like kicking woes, right? Which is kind of was kind of it's topical for Notre Dame right now with what they've got going on with their kickers. Not that they're missing extra points, but there's just a kicker problem. So that game was just like out of nowhere loss, an inexplicable loss. So I got those kind of nerves, Jamie. You've done a lot of looking into USC. Where are you at with this game? You wrote the scouting report. Where are you at with where Notre Dame is? How do you feel like Notre Dame stands coming into this game this weekend?
I mean, I like Notre Dame to win fairly comfortably. I just don't think that I do think, I mean, Notre Dame is clearly a much better team. That is very evident. Just not by the records, but just everything, obviously by the records, but way more than that. Just how they play, they're just better all around. Way more consistent.
Yeah.
The things that maddeningly inconsistent, this USC team. And there's just not a lot of there's just a lot of things there that I look at against Notre Dame that I think are just bad news bears for USC. Like I just don't think they match up great because they're not good on the offensive line. They have like 3 pretty good players. And I know before, one of the things is Notre Dame fans enjoyed that Elijah Page, their left tackle, was struggling really bad earlier. He's actually kind of similar to Anthony Knapp. He's gotten better and better as the season's gone along. And he's been pretty good. And then they got the 2, their center good. Monheim is good. Pregnon, who's the other big guard, he's good. The other guard stinks. The right tackle is like beyond stink, toxic stink. He sucks. Like I don't think this guy, like that's a guy who should get abused in the game. He just, against anyone who's like above a certain level, he gets abused. That's just what it is. He's not a good player. He's not a starter level quality player, and they don't have anybody else. That's the thing, right? And they've actually weirdly been lucky on the O-line where their starting five has been healthy like the whole year. That doesn't happen very often for most teams. But they are like, if one of those guys went down, especially if it's one of those good guys, it'll get ugly in a hurry. So I just think I think Notre Dame's going to have an edge up front there. I also think that on the defensive line, I actually think there's a lot better than I would like just watching them. Like I think Gavin Meyer, who's a Wyoming transfer, I think he's a pretty good player. He's a pretty good player. I was impressed by him. He popped for me watching him. I think he's a good, run stuffing defensive tackle. With a little bit of juice as a pass rusher, not a ton, but a little bit. And then I think they got some edge rushers that are like freaky, like that but they're young.
Some young guys, yeah. Some like
young, right?
Yeah.
So that, because they are young, that is something that really stands out to me as like, man, those guys are going to get tested in this game more so than they have been in a lot of other games, because it's not just that Notre Dame's, all O-line in general is better, but they have tight ends who can actually block. Notre Dame's tight ends have been actually like back half of the year have been great blocking, really, really good run blocking. And their defense, shockingly, has been way, way better than anticipated. Like they went from 100th in DF plus to 32nd, which is incredible turnaround. And I mean, so all those hires they made, including obviously defense coordinator Danton Lynn from UCLA, it paid off. But they don't cause a ton of havoc because they just don't really have all the playmakers that you really need. Like to me, it would have been really interesting if they had like, Kalen Bullock, who's on the last couple teams, who was like a really good, center fielder, guy who made a ton of plays on the ball.
Yeah.
And if they're better at linebacker, that's the other thing. They're super thin at linebacker. Like, so if Notre Dame plays heavy, then they got to play a true freshman as their third linebacker. And that guy is not like KVA. He's not that level. And even then, too, if KVA had to play the whole game, you'd probably be thinking like, I think he could probably do it for Notre Dame, but that would be tough because if he was on the field that much. But I don't know. Like, I just really think that they have some guys who are going to flash, but they're probably going to be better. And they're very competent in the secondary overall because they play, but they keep everything in front of them. And they're 128th in completion percentage against, which I just thought was kind of shocking. So a little bit like Army, where they're very much bend but don't break.
Yeah.
And they've kind of done enough to do it there. But Notre Dame's easily the best backs that they faced, all year. I mean, Notre Dame's backs are better than Penn State's backs. And then I just think too, like, Riley Leonard's a better runner. There's things there. They don't have Notre Dame doesn't have Davis Warren at tight end, that guy who's just like totally, because he dominated that game. But I just think they're going to be able to like get enough and then get enough plays there on offense. And then on defense for Notre Dame, there's just zero reason to doubt that they're going to have a great game and play really, really well and be totally prepared and also adjust to whatever they're seeing. So while I think Makai Lemon, he is really
he's a good football player. He's like a guy. He is, if he hadn't ascended the way that he has this year, and I don't want to make him out to be like he's, Marquise Lee Redux, right? Like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like, he's got a chance
to be pretty special, though.
Yeah, he's a good football player, and so I like him a lot. And he's the one where it's like
he's kind of what they wanted Zachary Branch to be.
Yeah.
Really, right?
Yeah.
So I think he is a dangerous guy. He's a dangerous player. I think Woody Marks is a really good back. It's a very good back, but I don't think they're going to get a lot of. I think Notre Dame does such a great job of handling running backs in the passing game, and so that is going to something that's I think is going to hurt them too because he is. I mean, he leads the team in receptions. He's a weapon for them there, and they're going to try to like what they always do is they formation you into running situations, right? Where they have things, but they got to really like they'll have some running success.
Yes.
Like I wouldn't be surprised. Woody Marks probably get 100 yards in the game, but I don't think it's like he's also not like a home run hitter. Like he's not one of these guys. He's not Jeremiah Love where he's going to take like he gets a crease and then he's taking it. He's not quite at that thing. And I just think like I look at what Notre Dame's done in the back half of the year against some of the better backs, like specifically like a Jamal Haynes. And I just don't know. Like he could get something where like, man, he broke off a couple 20-yarders or whatever, right? But I'm not a Jaden Maivia guy. I've just watched him. I watched him at UNLV, and I watched him here. And if you just took his 10 best plays, you'd say, "Wow, man, this guy, he's got a chance to be something." And he does have a chance to be something. But watch a full game, and you see maddeningly inconsistent. He is the maddeningly inconsistent part of it, which is why he wasn't the starter. And so he can create too and do some of the Caleb things where it's like, man, he's improv, like the touchdown they had in the game there. But he'll make a great throw and then he'll just flat out miss another one. And he's a good runner, but he's not completely timing. So if he has like space, yeah, he can gash you, but he's not going to do what Caleb did or Mahomes-ish or whatever. He's not that kind of guy. So this is the kind of guy that Notre Dame eats up at quarterback. And I think he's going to throw the ball to them. And I just think because of that, and because of, watching them in the red zone against UCLA specifically too, was like, ugh, it was ugly. I just think this is the kind of guy who he might have like a hot streak at some point in the game, but when it levels off, it's going to level off. And that's, I just think that they're going to really struggle to get more than field goals. So I don't know. I mean, I just looking at all the matchups, Greg, I don't think there's any way that other than if you're looking at the history of this, this rivalry and all that. And I think there's some of that, but I also think if you're looking at say like 96, Robinson was the coach then, right? Wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. John Robinson, treat that Notre Dame rivalry a little bit different than Lincoln Riley, I would say. A little bit more respect.
I mean, look, that was a game like USC did not play well in that game, right?
Yeah.
Like, it was 30 years ago or 28 years ago, or whatever it was. Like these players were very much not alive, right? So I'm just saying, like, there's if Notre Dame was to drop it, like that's the type of game that it would have to be, in my opinion. And look, it could, right? Like the college football things are always available to happen, right? Sometimes we get into this thing of like, if Notre Dame, like we said the same thing as Army, right? If you turn over the ball and if you don't take advantage of your scoring opportunities, then you're in trouble, right? It's literally the case in every single game you play, right? I think when I talk about this game to people, I think like, and I was thinking about this, kind of on the trip and everything. I think this is the best Notre Dame team that they've sent to LA since 1992. And that takes into account, like, Notre Dame's SP or F plus offense is 13th. Like 2012's offense was, I think, was 42nd. The 2018 offense was 30th, right? They're much better offensively by the metrics than both of those teams fairly comfortably, right? I think the 0-2 team, like that offense was clearly not up to snuff. And then, you go through the 2000 team, like this is a better offense than the 2000 team. The 96 team is probably kind of close, but like that, they had major deficiencies like on the passing game and things of that nature. I just think it's clearly the best combination of offense and defense since that 92 season, right? And I think that's part of why this could go a lot differently than some of the close calls of recent past, right? Specifically in 12 and 18, where it's like this offense is just a good bit better, right? I mean, imagine if it's like the 2012 team, if you had better versions of Riddick and Wood and Everett Golson, right? Like that team is quite a bit better, and like the defense is comparable from an F plus standpoint. So if you threw out the history and all that other stuff, like this game, it wouldn't really worry me that much. Like I would just think they need to go out and play well. I mean, it might as well be Virginia, like you just need to go out there and play the way that they've been playing, and they'll handle business. The history is history. I'm not going to act like this game doesn't scare me because of that, right? Like rivalries matter in college football.
Yeah.
They always have. And they always have, right? So, I'm just saying from like a matchup standpoint, from the way that teams are playing standpoint, like there's been a lot of talk about, Notre Dame hasn't faced a passing game since Louisville like this, right? Like a wide receiving core, a type of offense since Louisville. And, people say, well, look at Louisville, right? Like they had, they scored the 24 points. In Notre Dame, Notre Dame, people would point out they had the short fields, right? Where it's like they scored on a 24-yard drive after the fumble and then a 9-yard drive after another fumble, right? They gifted them the points. I would say, well, Notre Dame did force a fumble after a 35-yard run, and Louisville literally handed the ball to Notre Dame when they were going to convert a third down, right? So I just think like Louisville had opportunities. Christian Gray also didn't play in that game. Ben Morrison did play, but he was pretty clearly injured in that game.
Yeah, he left the game with literally the thing that got knocked him out for the year.
Where he had to have surgery, right?
Yeah.
So that's why he left the game. Shanty Irishman says, I would take Golson over Leonard. If you would take 2012 Everett Golson over 2024 Riley Leonard, I do not know what to tell you about that. That is – look, people are entitled to opinions. That is the wrong opinion, in my opinion. Like I don't. That is just not true. I don't think you should take him in that situation.
I think you're like thinking of Golson from his best.
I think you're combining like you're
something.
just Golson had to get pulled from performance for a couple of occasions. That's just not that's not correct. Better passer, but the numbers say incorrect on that.
He was not what BK had said, him about him being, he was the passenger. Yes, he was the passenger on the bus. And you can say whatever about how good Notre Dame's offense is and whatever, like how really good they are, whatever. Riley Leonard is the bus driver. He has, if he hasn't played better, the offense doesn't get better and show better. And he's been way better as a passer. And he is extremely dangerous as a runner. Not even comparison as a runner, the value that he adds compared to Golson. And even if you just said, well, I just think perception wise that like Golson was a better passer or whatever, it's not enough of a gap to really, based on what you adds with the running and what he adds in terms of like he opened things up for Love and Price. Like that is a real thing. Like it is very much a real thing. So
yeah.
I think, I don't know. I do think it's going to be what I think will probably happen in the game is I think USC's defense will keep them in it for a long time.
Let me ask you something, because I was going to make this case, or I was kind of get to a case. Who is the best offense that USC's defense has faced post Penn State?
That's a good question. Let me look at who they have played since Penn State.
They've played Washington. They've played.
They have not played a good offense since Penn State.
Right.
That's correct. So
right.
Yeah, no, they haven't. Like the best one is probably Washington, and that's not a good offense. It's not.
Right.
Like it's
that's kind of where I come from. Is
their O-line specifically is trash. I mean, I don't even think that it's really close, actually. Like that is the thing. Like that's actually a great point that they have not, and even if you look at kind of where they're at on the season, LSU was the best offense. LSU and Penn State are like the only good offenses they faced. And LSU, obviously, that was week 1. And I don't actually think that was, as you've seen as they kind of gone along too, like, I don't think that LSU offense is really all that good. You know, like
no.
they definitely weren't as, I mean, I don't think Nussmeier is a good player, but I did think they weren't like super dangerous as receivers. The O-line was way overrated and not nearly as good. And yeah, and Penn State, I do think, like, I mean, they have players and stuff, but I would say, you know, I mean, Penn State threw for 400 yards against them. Like, that's not nothing. That's, you know, significant. So,
and they've lost Gentry since then. They've lost
Anthony
Anthony Lucas since then.
Yeah.
I think Eric Gentry, just as someone who lives out here, is a very important player for them. He was the best player. He's the type of guy. He just made plays. He always made plays, and it was just like a guy who caused problems, right? And he has kind of he's a weird body for his position. He was always just kind of a weird fit, but like his name just continued to come up over and over again. And so I just, you know, I think losing him is just huge. I think losing Anthony Lucas is huge. Bear Alexander, you know, him opting out, it's kind of, in reality, it's not that big of a loss just because of what's the value add there, but like not having that type of talent in there. Like he was an important player for them last year, you know? So I think it's just
he's definitely a guy who could just blow up a play.
He could cause problems, right?
Absolutely blow up a play at any point in time, right?
Rajon says Maryland threw for 373 yards. Maryland's only win in the Big Ten is against USC.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that, the Gentry point is huge. Gentry still leads the team in tackles for loss. He played 4 games. So it gives you an idea of where they are really in relative, which is what I said too. Like, they lack playmakers. They really do. They don't have like Jalen Smith, who was their nickel last year, who moved to outside corner. He's a good player. Mm-hmm. They have good players from the defense. I think the secondary is pretty good. Yeah. It's easily the best secondary they've had in like years, probably, because they maximize their potential. But do they have a bunch of guys who are like, you know, dynamic playmaking types? No, you know, they don't. So I think that's something that really kind of stands out about them, is that they don't have the guys that are like really gonna make too many game-changing plays. Like they really need like freshmen and sophomore guys to do it, who haven't played as well and haven't, like, if you look at like where Notre Dame's like freshmen and sophomore guys and what they've done, it's not comparable to like what, in terms of their level of like playmaking and all that. Like it's not. So yeah, I mean, I think that if once, and that's why you don't see them have the havoc, because if you look at UCLA last year, their pass rush was phenomenal, but it was because they had like 3 edge guys who were just like borderline unblockable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Latulate was just like amazing, right? And they don't have anybody like that. They don't have anybody like that, let alone like 3 guys that you could just throw on third down and just like cause so many problems. They have guys who can win a little bit, but they're not, the pass rush isn't great. So I don't know. And I really think they need that kind of, they really need that kind of thing. They're way more dangerous on offense because they have just like incredible athletes there. They do have like just speed. They have a track team. They have a 4x100 track team. But the problem is that like, so guys like, so we mentioned Lemon, who was awesome. And Chris Sale was like, who is covering Branch? I mean, the way they have used Branch, I'm not saying like he couldn't just come up with a play and just break something, because he is got, exceptional speed.
Right.
Exceptional speed. Or you kick it to him on a punt and he did last year, right? But there's a reason why his numbers are like, man, why is this guy only doing this or that? Why hasn't he hasn't done the things that Lemon has done.
He has 43 catches for 458 yards. He's averaging 10.6 yards per reception. He has 1 touchdown this year. He hasn't, the leap that they thought was coming has not come in the way that,
he hasn't developed as a receiver. He is a screen guy. And I don't even think he's like a great vertical type guy, because they don't seem to really target him.
Right.
Doing that.
Yeah. He's obviously shown a problem, some problems with tracking the ball, with being able to run those routes and make the plays. I mean, why would you? There's only one reason why they haven't thrown it. It's like he's not.
It's like one of those things where everyone's like, man, this guy could be Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill isn't just great because he's fast. Right. That guy tracks it as good as anybody. And that is the difference between him and all the other guys that Chiefs have tried to replace him with, and all the other guys in the league. Even Jalen Waddle, who is himself pretty dynamic, isn't quite Tyreek Hill, because everybody wants that guy. Yeah. And it's just really hard to find that guy. And so Branch is capable of great things, and he's speed, and you always have to worry. Anytime there's that kind of speed, you always have to be aware. But if you go into the game much more concerned about Mekhi Lemon than you do Branch, and like Deuce Robinson too is like incredible. Like, guy's 6'6" and he runs like a gazelle. Like he absolutely like is a guy that could just break something open at any time because he's that fast. But you're like, this guy, it's Derek Meadows-ish in terms of like, you're like, wow, this guy is just all kinds of like, how come he's not better?
Right.
And it's like, not
he's got
just
20 catches for 333 yards. Like,
he's 5 for 15 in contested catches. He's 6'6", 220.
Yeah.
And it's not ball placement. I'm telling you that. Like, he's just one of these guys. And I'm not saying he's not going to be, because he could. Like, guys get better at these things, right? Mm-hmm. Go look at like a Chase Claypool. Got way, way better at it. He might end up being the best receiver in college football next year. He has that kind of talent. He just hasn't shown himself to be that guy. And just like even like Jacoby Lane, they were super excited about him at the beginning of the year, right? He was getting all the hype. They were like, he's going to be the guy. He doesn't even start now. And it's because he just was not, that level of consistency wasn't there. And that's why, as much as you want to blame the quarterback, and some of it is on the quarterback, but a lot of it is like, they don't have a Drake London. They don't have a Pittman. They don't have an Amon-Ra. The closest thing is Mekhi Lemon has been the closest thing to that for them. And that is really kind of like, if you're going to say what's most shocking about like USC this year, is that they just haven't, you just think with Lincoln Riley, that's going to be an automatic. They're like, these guys are playing a Lincoln Riley offense. Well, they're going to be running free a lot. They're going to be he's going to scheme them open. These guys can beat man coverage, like they're going to get this, but it's just like, why haven't they done it all year? It's not because the Big Ten is that much harder than the Pac-12. It's not that. Like, there's other things going on. Like, it goes to show too that for everyone who thinks because you're a 5-star kid and a 5-star receiver and you just, you got the elite 100-meter time or whatever, there's a lot more that goes into being like a great receiver than there is. And there's a reason why Amon-Ra came in and was like a dude when he was a freshman. The guy knew how to play receiver. He's physical. He'd run routes. He would absolutely like body dudes. Like, those guys don't do that. Right. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, like, they're dangerous. Yes, they're dangerous, but it's just like, I don't know. It's not like, for whatever reason, it hasn't happened for them. It hasn't happened for them.
Yeah. Like, you look at the talent and you think, man, that if they break out at any point, like, it could be potent, right? They're 56th in the nation in scoring offense. They're averaging 29.3 points a game. A Lincoln Riley offense is averaging under 30 points a game.
Yeah.
Think about that.
They haven't scored 30 points since Penn State, which was October 12th.
Yeah. It's just, for whatever reason, they don't have an explosive offense this year. And look, we've talked about it a ton with Notre Dame. You've got to be able to hit home runs. You got to be able to score easy points. And USC is simply not getting that in 2024. It makes it very difficult. And they haven't gotten it. And it's just, now you're playing the best defense they've played all season, with exception of maybe Penn State. But like, that was a time when USC, like, I think the context of that game in particular, USC had lost twice. They were playing for their season. Their season was on the line that day, and they lost. And they have just, since then, the quarterback has gone very much backwards. They have changed quarterbacks. They've only lost players to injury. It's just the context of the game that USC played against Penn State and the game they are playing on Saturday is completely different. And now you're playing a better team. You're playing a better Notre Dame team than what Notre Dame was previously. I mean, all of USC's best football is over a month ago or a month ago. It's not recent. And Notre Dame has only gotten better over the course of the season, which is kind of what we talked about, just the fact that they had the opportunity to do it. And now it's in front of them. Notre Dame has everything to play for. USC already got their bowl game. So they've qualified for the bowl. So they don't have that. Now, look, you could look on the other side and say, well, they can play freely now. They can take chances. They can fake punts. They can do onside kicks. They can do trick plays. They can do all these things, right? Whatever they want to do, they can. And that's all true, right? And there is a puncher's chance that USC has, because they have the ability in a way that the other teams Notre Dame has played don't have, right?
Sorry, Rajon is right. They did score 42 against Rutgers. I forgot about that.
Fair point. Because it was a Friday. It was a Friday. Yeah. It was when the night that Freddie Freeman hit the walk-off in the World Series.
Yeah. And I will say, yeah, it wasn't a game. And that's the other thing too. this game not being at night somehow has like, I feel like there's way worse Notre Dame mojo at night in the Coliseum.
I agree, but that's just because recent history. But I like I compared it to the 2000 game. On the I said it was going to be 38-21, which was a 2000 score that was also played at 12:30. That was a 12:30 kick. Envy Irish says, do you guys think USC being in tighter games down the stretch than Notre Dame has an advantage to USC? What do you think about that?
No, I don't. Just because of the reasons they were in those tight games. And I know they won the last two tight games, so you could say, okay, great. They kind of finished there, right? But I didn't really feel like they weren't. This just in Nebraska is not a good team, and neither is UCLA. Like they're not good, and USC didn't play well to win. Definitely not against UCLA. And I understand, yeah, it's a rivalry game or whatever, but like it was a pretty ugly game for USC. Like if you felt good about Jaden Maivia after Nebraska, you probably felt a lot worse after the UCLA game. So I don't think it's like, are they used to playing that? Yeah, but they've lost enough of those. I mean, they've lost most of them, to be honest. So that it's one of those things that I don't think it's like a true advantage. If it's like a belief that, hey, we're going to win this game, I find, especially if you've lost so many of the game, there's a lot of like waiting for the shoe to drop. Like, oh God, something bad happens. You're like, here we go again. It's like one of those things. So, I mean, I guess you can say in terms of Notre Dame's players haven't had to play a full game in quite a while. So that, I think is maybe could be pretty valid, if it's tight and there's all that. But if you look at it where, I would even say if you look at how Notre Dame did, like winning that Texas A&M game, I know it's early, but winning the Louisville game. So those like two biggest games of the season that they won in the fourth quarter, those are something you can lean on that you've done and you've made plays and there's like a belief there that I think that's like enough there that you've had it. But hey, I wanted to point this out because it was something that really stood out to me when I was doing research for UFC. And I can't remember if I put in the scouting report or not, but so plays of 20 plus yards from scrimmage, 2022, USC fourth, 91. Last year, second, 90. This year, they have 51. They're 56th. That's like
it's a different kind of team.
It's a totally different kind of team. It's a totally different kind of team. And I don't really think that they've played a ton of, I mean, it's the same kind of thing. You could say like their schedule is tougher than Notre Dame's. It has been for sure. But they haven't played like a ton of great defenses either. Like it's not like Penn State, Minnesota, those are the best defense they face. Like that's about it, So like I understand they put 42 on Rutgers, but like Rutgers is Rutgers, so it's a little different. Like basically for USC to win this game, they have to play like they haven't played all year, which is why I'm like, I mean, I guess it can happen in a rivalry game, but it's just like very hard to predict that.
Right. Like, again, you're just saying you have to be a completely different team than you have been. And look, Notre Dame could get caught, right? And the way Notre Dame gets caught is we've talked about it a little bit where it's like they've gone on scoring droughts. Not in this last game, right? So you forget about it. But they'll go 3-4 drives going 3 and out. 3-4 drives in a row. Well, they'll go 3 and out or they won't get points. And like I think that to the question of, like how like the lack of close games, like how that might matter to Notre Dame is it's just like if you haven't played close games and it's just you start to get in those droughts and maybe it's like 10-10 for like a full quarter, or it's 13-10 or it's 17-10 and you're just like you continue to have to punt. You continue to have to punt. You keep giving them back the ball. You start to get that mindset of like, man, we're blowing it. We're blowing this, and whereas in another situation, you might say, no, it's okay. Like we've been here before. We're going to go win the game. And to be honest, like that is us projecting something onto the team. We don't know how the team feels about these things. Like we don't know how the team is going to react. We're only just kind of guessing, we're musing about it, but we don't know. But it's just like, that's how it's going to happen, right? You look at the way the season has played out. The one big thing that Notre Dame has done throughout the year, no matter what, with the exception of this last game, is they've gone on scoring droughts. And that is something you don't want to have happen because it's always happened when they've been in the lead, The one time they lost this year is they went on a long scoring drought and they didn't have the lead that whole time. And what did it led to a loss, right? I don't think this defense is going to continually give it up, but there have been times when it's just like, man, why can't, and look, it's been kind of out of nowhere. They did it against Florida State. They did it against Virginia. They did it against Louisville. They did it against Georgia Tech, right? It's been, I mean, like they did it in the Texas A&M game, but that was kind of different, right? Where it's like, it was a huge game and a scoring drought in that particular circumstance isn't red flaggy. You did it against Miami of Ohio. You did it against NIU. You didn't do it against Purdue, but in the majority of the games in 2024, the offense has gone through lulls. And that is, if you're going to lose a game, you shouldn't. It's going to be because your offense is not doing the things that you should be doing, right? They've in my opinion,
drops,
drops, kind of the wrong play call at the wrong time. It's been not just one person. It's been kind of across the board, right? And so if there is a loss in there for Notre Dame, it is that reason. That is their Achilles heel this year offensively, where it doesn't look good for a long period of time. And so that is the deal. Envy Iris says success in the middle eight has been huge for their confidence. According to John Bryce, Notre Dame is now 111-0. They have scored 111 points in the middle eight and have given up 0. That's one of the most impressive stats I think that I've ever heard. That's incredible, and it's like a testament to Marcus Freeman. It has always been a key for him.
Yeah,
he has always looked at the middle eight, a point of emphasis. Thank you. And he's excelling at the thing that he is kind of taking charge of. It's something that he wants to be as a head coach. He wants that to be a major part of his team in the way that they play. So that's his point of emphasis. If you want to put a point of emphasis for your small business on having a better media company, then you should go to VSR Media. Founded by Notre Dame football pregame host and Emmy Award-winning anchor Vahid Sadrazadeh, VSR Media provides professional and cinematic video and photo. Whether you're looking for a collegiate or pro-level highlight reel, have a personal story to tell, or aiming to diversify and grow your business, VSR Media specializes in short and long-form video storytelling, social media management, and website design. VSR Media also captures professional headshots, senior, and sports photos. Contact them at vsrmediacompany.com. Mention Irish Sports Daily to receive 20% off your first project. Visit them online or give them a call at 574-800-9106. Envy Irish says the middle eight softens the concern about scoring droughts a little bit. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, I sometimes I get a little bit nervous about trends like that. And if a trend in one game goes the opposite way, that can kind of hurt your confidence a little bit? What were you going to
Yeah.
say?
Well, I think one of the things too that has helped because they've had these scoring droughts is that the defense and the special teams have picked them up so many times when they've done it. So I guess there is a chance that it won't happen, that they don't get picked up by the defense and the special teams in this game. But I mean, they're tied for most in the country of block kicks. You know that Martin Biaggi has some kind of funky fake in his back pocket. You know, if they're in a lull and they need to call something, they probably have something. They probably have something that they prepared all year for this USC game. And the defense just, lose Boubacar, lose Botello, lose BMO, still turn the ball over. Like they still force turnovers and like do it in timely fashion. So, and it's one of those things where you could have said like, yeah, the Navy game was definitely a little bit of luck that played into it. But like, look at the Army game where just like Leonard Moore again just pops that ball out and then it's just boom, right? Like that. Like, so, and that's the one thing too, that Notre Dame's offense, I don't know. That's one thing that I would actually, I don't know if anyone has tracked that, but like, I should probably track that at some point. How many points Notre Dame has scored off the turnovers this year? Because it does seem like almost every time that Notre Dame gets a turnover, like the average points in those drives has to be extremely high. Extremely high. They're getting touchdowns a lot on those drives. Even if they're like turn the ball over deep into Notre Dame territory, they seem to get touchdowns quite a bit.
I mean, I think too, just like since NIU, I don't think Notre Dame has trailed for more than one possession for the rest of the year. I think against Louisville, Notre Dame fumbled the opening kickoff. Louisville scored. Notre Dame scored on their first drive after that. Have they been down since then? I mean, I feel like they have, but I can't think of it. Stanford scored on their first possession.
Stanford scored on their first
possession. And Notre Dame went down and scored.
I think Notre Dame. I can't remember if Notre Dame might have went and scored right away, but they were down. At that point.
I'm just saying, like it's never been for more than one possession.
No, it hasn't been for quite a while.
Like when was the last time the defense was on the field without the lead? Was it?
Oh wow.
Was it NIU?
Man, that's a great question, Greg. I think it might be NIU. I'm gonna have to look. I don't believe that there was. I'll have to look at that Stanford game, even though it's insane because you're like they won 49-7.
Yeah.
But okay. No, because they went back and scored right away, right after on them to tie it up. So I think it was NIU.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is like when I say defense was on the field without the lead, like I mean like trailing. When the last time the defense was on the field trailing? They've been on the field tied before, but they haven't been. I don't think they've been on the field because like if it's 0-0 and you give up a touchdown, I mean technically you're on the field for extra point, but like you know what I mean by that. You're not down 3-0, or you're not down 7-0 or whatever it might be. And so like that's a good way to play, right? And so, I mean, there is the unknown factor. Like, I don't want to completely dismiss the idea that it means nothing to these guys if it's 10-0.
They were down against Miami, Ohio as well.
They're down 3-0.
They were down 3-0. They had, one possession where they were down 3-0.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So
and they got a 3 and out.
And they got a 3 and out. Okay. So look, proof positive they can handle adversity. No, but like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Well,
like,
no, for sure.
Like,
but,
you know what I'm saying, though.
I do know what you're saying, but the one thing that I will say about like the part of like, man, they haven't had to do adversity in terms of the lead, yes, but the offense has kind of put them in a lot of bad spots that they've had to get out of a decent amount, or the special teams like muff punts and here's this and all that, right?
100%. Like up 7-0 against Virginia. They had struggle bust on offense. They dropped the punt. They get the ball. Virginia's driving. They force a fumble, and then they don't look back from there.
Yeah,
like that was an adverse situation. Like I think it's fair to say that the stadium was probably grumbling at that point. There were probably some nervous people, like, oh my god,
absolutely,
yeah. So. Look, adversity comes in many forms, maybe none that's obvious to us. So, look, just the absence of it doesn't mean they can't handle it. It just means that it hasn't been there, right? Did the 95 Nebraska podcast, like, did they sit there and be like, man, if we ever get down to any of these teams, right? Like, it's just
or
sometimes
like Bama and all these teams, and like, look at it. Another thing that I wrote about is like the teams that win championships dominate,
right?
They dominate the whole year, and it's like, yeah, they'll have games where it's like, oh, this one, I'll have 1 or 2 games are close. Most of the games they beat the brakes off people.
Yeah,
that's just
and look,
it is.
The other thing is, we're sitting here, and it's very easily the case that Notre Dame comes out and plays a great game tomorrow. That has just as much likelihood of happening as the other way around. Like sometimes these things, when you're the favorite, you look at it on the negative way, and how do they blow it, or how do they do that? Like, you could just go out and play a great football game. That's also available to Notre Dame. Jamie, what was your prediction on the website? They're up already on irishsportsdaily.com. You can check us out. You can check those out, and Matt Freeman, Mike Frank, and Christian McCollum.
I actually predicted exact same score as Matt, 31-13.
31-13.
So the way I think it'll play out is USC will keep them in the game. Like their defense will keep them in the game the whole first half, and they will probably get like, you have to expect like Lemon or Branch or one of those guys will break something and do whatever, that they'll get into position. They have guys who are going to make plays. They're too talented to not have none of those guys make plays the whole game. That is going to happen. Like they're going to be in a position. I just think ultimately USC has been great on third down this year. Their defense has been great on third down and been great in the red zone. But I think there's a reason why Notre Dame has been so great in the red zone all year. And I think it's going to kind of even out where Notre Dame that's what they do. They score in the red zone. Yeah. They get those touchdowns. And even if you can have something where it's like you said, with those lulls, and then Jadarian Price just breaks a 60 or Love breaks a 60, like that's the beauty of Notre Dame and what they have there, right? Or all of a sudden we're just like, man, this is just looking bad. And you're like, oh, it's 10-7. Like, geez, Notre Dame is better than them. Why is this the thing? And then all of a sudden the next drive is 5 plays, 80 yards, touchdown.
Yeah.
Right? It's 17-7. And then it's all of a sudden it's like, okay, USC gets the ball with 4 minutes left in the half, and they got to score here. And like, that's the middle 8 where Notre Dame has just won in those intervals, right? So as Marcus Freeman likes to call it. So I just kind of see it kind of probably playing out that way, where it's not going to look as dominating as some of these other games, but I think that they will be in control for most of it. Of course, there's always, the chance that stuff gets weird. It is USC. Stuff can get totally weird. But I just think Notre Dame is the better team, and then I'll just ultimately just kind of get into that thing where they're going to be comfortable enough that it's USC will be chasing. And I know the one thing with Lincoln Riley is when he's chasing, he does not stick with running the ball and being patient with that stuff. And it's probably like his biggest fault as a play caller, because he is a fantastic play caller. He is really, really good play caller. But he just doesn't seem to have the patience to really just like say, hey, we're just going to keep running it here. Yeah. We're just going to keep doing it. He'll do it if they have the lead, but not when they're trailing. So I don't know. I think it's going to be fun. There's obviously going to be some trick stuff going on, and it's you're always going to sweat it out. But I do think, Greg, I think the day game, the juju and the day game, there's something about it there. I think that is weirdly going to be helpful, because I feel like the Coliseum at night is just bad vibes.
Bad vibes. Something I did want to bring up, that there's going to be Big Ten refs in this game. There's going to be some shenanigans, 100%. There are going to be some crazy, like there's USC will not get called for holding one time. Notre Dame's going to have some big plays called back for holding and various penalties. They are going to let things go for USC, and they're going to call Notre Dame tighter. What is the point of conferences that they're not going to do that? Like I'm 100% convinced of that. So just,
why are there conference officials? Why?
I don't know. It's honestly, it's just like the most obvious, like opportunity for corruption you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah.
It just shouldn't happen. It shouldn't be the case. So that's the deal. I don't want to, I don't want to throw up all of my fears and all of my scars on people. Look, objectively speaking, what Notre Dame is good at and what USC is good at. Notre Dame should handle this team. They should. And I'm going to predict that they do. Okay. I'm going to predict 38-21. And I don't want to do the thing where it's like, I just have a feeling, because that's not really, anyone can say that, right? Anyone can project their fears onto a game. Notre Dame is better than them. They just are. There's nothing in the matchups that tells me that USC is much more likely to beat Notre Dame than some other team. They just, they have a quarterback in their third start who hasn't done much offensively in the games that he has started. Al Golden has given these types of quarterbacks problems for the last 2 years. This defense is a lot better than any defense they've played since Penn State. They are a much different team since Penn State. Notre Dame is playing much better offensively than they have in the last 2 months. It's just you gotta just go with what it's been. And so I'm gonna say Notre Dame 38, USC 21.
I just want to point out, because Shanty Irishman asked about the big favoring USC, like Michigan or Ohio State, and it's funny because I have seen a lot of USC fans complain about Big Ten refs, like they're getting screwed.
I think that may be so. I think what they're talking about is just like it's just they're complaining about. Look, anytime your team is in close games, for one, like every call is magnified even more. Like, look, were they complaining about the Big Ten refs at the end of the Nebraska game when the Nebraska receiver was like literally getting pulled away from going to get the ball with no call at the end of the game? Like, that was an embarrassment, like just straight up, right? And like USC fans, like at the end of the other game. That there was another game where it was like clear. The touchdown they scored against UCLA, the back or the tight end grabs the defensive end and doesn't let him rush the passer. No call, right? So like they're not complaining about that stuff, A, because they won, right? But B, like every time you're in a close game, like every call is going to be magnified and a much bigger deal. This is a situation where it is a Big Ten team against an out-of-conference team. And that out-of-conference team, by the way, is not in a conference.
Yeah.
Has no protection from anyone. Come on, man. Like let's not pretend that it's not 2024 and these aren't billion-dollar industries. Yeah. Okay.
But for all the ACC refs screwing Notre Dame has dominated the
right.
ACC.
So I'm just saying, be ready for it.
But be ready for a couple of horrendous calls where I'm just destroying these guys on Twitter.
You just need to be ready for that. Yeah. I got Notre Dame 38-21. That's what I've got. So
I like it.
That's the deal. Thank you everyone for tuning in today. If you like what you heard, please hit the like, please hit subscribe, please hit the notification bell so you know whatever it is. We are going to go live. I am actually about to go live in 45 minutes, Jamie. Dara and I are going to do a live show of Dimes with Dara. We're going to do a game watch. Notre Dame is playing TCU in the Caymans. We're going to do like a game watch thing. Van Lith, that's right. So we're going to check that out. So stick around.
Get locked up by Citron.
Man, this women's team, I'm telling you, bro, that's a good basketball team.
I'm jealous that you got to watch that game in person.
Yes, they were excellent. So check us out. We're gonna be on in 45 minutes. We're gonna do a game watch. We're gonna talk about that. We may not do the whole game because Dara is in Turkey, and
that's probably late.
Oh no, wait, no, she's not in Turkey. Where is she now? I don't even remember where she is. She might be in Hungary. Let me check. Let me check here where she's at. She's in Poland. That's where she is. She's in Poland. See, she's been all over Europe. She's in Poland watching the game. So we may not do the whole thing. It's like it's going to be 11 p.m. Her time when the game tips off. So check us out there. All right. Thank you, everyone. Hit the like, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. We'll see you in a little bit. Links to the podcast in the description below. We'll talk to you after the game and keep hitting and hustling.